The council chamber felt empty, even though all the representatives were present. Everyone noticed the vacant section where Ambassador Minji Kim should have been sitting. 48 hours had passed. She had not returned. Hive Queen Thesara shifted uncomfortably on her platform. She had sent 17 messages to the human embassy. All went unanswered. She had dispatched ships to human colonies in council space. They found empty buildings and silent stations. "Where are they?" demanded the Drexian representative. His scales flashed with agitated colors. The humans were supposed to return with their answer. Luminarch Vosk pulsed with dim light. His ancient consciousness had been processing information for the past day. The conclusions troubled him. "They have withdrawn," Vosk said. "Completely. Every human in council space has returned to their territory. Every ship, every station, all gone." "Gone?" Thesara's mandibles clicked rapidly. "That is impossible. We have treaties, trade agreements, shared defense pacts. They cannot simply leave. And yet they have," Vosk replied. A Thaler representative raised one of her many tentacles. "Perhaps they are preparing their response, gathering resources before returning to negotiate." "They are not coming back," said a small delegate from the Velkan species. "I was in the Human Medical Research Facility on Thalor Prime. The human doctors finished their shifts, packed their personal items, and left. They deleted nothing. They destroyed nothing. They simply walked away." The chamber fell silent. The implications were beginning to sink in. "Let them hide in their territory," Thesara declared. "We do not need humans. We managed fine before they joined the council. We will manage fine now." The council voted to consider the matter resolved. Humanity had removed itself from galactic affairs. Good. The troublesome species was no longer a concern. The first problems appeared 3 weeks later. The life support system on Station Keller 9 began failing. Technicians tried to repair it but discovered that key components were built using human-designed systems. The control algorithms were encrypted, locked. No one had the access codes. On the Drexian homeworld, shield generators that protected 3 major cities started showing errors. Engineers pulled up the technical specifications and found human algorithms at the core of the defense programming. Without the humans to maintain them, the shields were degrading. Thaler medical facilities discovered that their advanced diagnostic equipment was calibrated using a process developed by human bioengineers. The equipment still worked, but no one knew how to recalibrate it when it drifted out of alignment. Trade ships found that the most efficient routes through council space had been calculated by human navigation specialists. The routes still existed, but without human traders actively using them, they became clogged with traffic and delays. The council had not realized how deeply human expertise had woven itself into galactic infrastructure. Humans had never demanded credit. They had never made themselves obviously indispensable. They had simply been there fixing problems, improving systems, making things work better. Now they were gone. And things were breaking. Thesara called an emergency council session. "We need to contact Earth," she announced. "We need human technicians to help us maintain these systems." "Send a diplomatic envoy," suggested the Velkan representative. A small diplomatic ship was dispatched to the edge of human space. It was met by an automated defense platform. The platform did not fire. It did not threaten. It simply displayed a message. Access denied. The envoy tried to send a communication. No response. They tried emergency channels. Nothing. They waited for 3 days at the border. The automated platforms watched them in silence. Finally, they returned to the council with their report. Earth was not responding to any contact. The borders were closed. "Break through them," the Drexian military commander suggested. "Send a fleet." "Force them to negotiate." Luminarch Vosk's light flickered with what might have been alarm. That would be war. And we do not know the full extent of human defensive capabilities. We suspected they were more advanced than they revealed. That suspicion is now certainty. More problems emerged. A plague broke out on the Thaler colony world of Sesson. It was not a new disease, but an old one that had been eradicated years ago with human medical help. Without human doctors to maintain the vaccination programs, it had returned. The Velkan Star mining operation in the Keller system lost 3 ships to equipment failures. The mining vessels used human-designed safety systems that were now malfunctioning without maintenance. Food synthesizers across council space began producing substandard nutrition. The calibration software had been optimized by human food scientists. Without updates and maintenance, the synthesizers were reverting to older, less efficient patterns. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the Council was facing a crisis. Not a military crisis, something worse. A slow collapse of infrastructure and services that touched every aspect of galactic life. The Sarah refused to admit the scale of the problem. "We will rebuild," she insisted. "We will develop our own solutions. We do not need humanity." But the repair efforts were slow. Systems that humans had maintained easily became complex problems for other species. The Council's best engineers struggled to understand the elegant simplicity of human designs. Luminarch Vosk studied the situation with growing concern. His species had built galactic civilizations before. He recognized the pattern. Humanity had not made itself indispensable through force or demands. They had simply been excellent at what they did. So excellent that others had come to rely on them without even realizing it. "We made a mistake," Vosk announced in council session. His light pulsed with regret. "We treated them as a threat because they were competent. We demanded they submit because they were independent. We have driven away the very people who were helping us most. They should have shared their knowledge," the Sarah argued. "They should have trained others to maintain these systems." "They did share," Vosk replied. "I have reviewed the records. Human engineers offered training programs every year. Few species sent students. Human researchers published their findings openly. Few bothered to read them. We assumed we could always ask humans to fix our problems. We never learned to fix them ourselves." The Council sent another envoy to Earth, this time with an apology and a request for technical assistance. The envoy returned with the same message. Access denied. They tried sending personal messages to humans they had worked with, scientists who had collaborated, doctors who had saved lives, traders who had built friendships. All went unanswered. Humanity had closed ranks completely. A year after the exodus, Station Keller 9 was evacuated. The life support failures could not be repaired. 3,000 people had to relocate. The station that had been a hub of commerce and culture for 2 centuries was now a dead hunk of metal floating in space. The Drexian shield failures led to disaster when a meteor strike hit one of their cities. Thousands died. The shields that would have stopped the meteor were offline and no one could fix them. The Thaler plague spread to 3 more worlds. The death toll climbed into the millions, and through it all humanity remained silent behind their borders. No threats, no demands, no gloating. Just silence, the Sarah began to understand. This was not punishment. Punishment would have been active, aggressive. This was something else. This was abandonment. Humanity had not attacked the Council. They had simply stopped helping. The Council had built its civilization on the assumption that everyone would cooperate, that everyone would contribute, that everyone would be there when needed. Humanity had been there. For decades they had been there, helping, building, improving, and the Council had responded by demanding they submit. So humanity had left, not in anger, not in violence. They had simply walked away, and in their absence the Council was learning what it had lost. Luminarch Vosk sent one final message toward Earth. He did not expect a response. But he sent it anyway. "We were wrong. We see that now. We hope someday you might forgive us." The message traveled through space and reached the automated platforms at Earth's border. They recorded it, analyzed it, filed it away. No response was sent. The silence continued. The United Earth Assembly Chamber was built into the side of a mountain in Switzerland. Its walls were thick stone, shielded from every known form of surveillance. When decisions that would change the course of human history needed to be made, they were made here. Chancellor Jiwan Choi stood at the central podium, looking up at the tiered seats where representatives from every nation and colony sat. The chamber was full, every seat occupied. Everyone knew this vote would matter. "The Council has given us an ultimatum," Jiwan said. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the podium edge. "They demand we surrender our sovereignty. They want control of our military, our research, our future. They have given us 30 days to comply." A roar of voices filled the chamber, anger, fear, defiance, all mixing together. Jiwan waited for the noise to fade before continuing. "We have 3 options," she said. "We can submit to their demands. We can refuse and prepare for war. Or we can choose a third path. Representative Marcus from the Mars colony stood. War would be suicide. They have 15 species. Billions of ships. We cannot win. Submission would be the death of everything we have built, countered Representative Yuki from the Titan station. We might survive, but we would not be free. The debate raged for 2 hours. Some argued that compliance was temporary, that humanity could work within the system to regain autonomy later. Others insisted that any surrender would be permanent, that the Council would never let humanity rise again. Ji-won listened to all of it. She had heard these arguments in private meetings for the past 6 months. She had read every intelligence report, every strategic analysis, every projection. She had already made her decision. But the assembly needed to make it too. Finally, she raised her hand for silence. The chamber grew quiet. There is a third option, she said. We leave. Confusion rippled through the assembly. Representative Chen from Luna spoke up. Leave? Leave where? We cannot leave the galaxy. We leave the Council, Ji-won explained. We withdraw completely. We recall every human from Council space. We close our borders. We end all treaties, all trade agreements, all diplomatic relations. We simply walk away. The chamber erupted again. Some called it cowardice. Others called it brilliant. Representative Akari from Earth stood and shouted over the noise. If we leave, we lose access to Council trade routes. We lose their technology exchanges. We lose the protection of Council defense pacts. We would be alone. We are already alone, Ji-won replied. They do not see us as partners. They see us as a threat to be controlled. We have 2 choices. Submit and lose our freedom, or leave and keep our dignity. Admiral Juan Park entered the chamber. He was not a member of the assembly, but he had been summoned to provide military assessment. He walked to the podium and stood beside the Chancellor. Can we defend ourselves if we leave? Representative Marcus asked. Juan nodded. Yes, our borders are defensible. Our technology is advanced enough to deter aggression. We have been preparing for this possibility for 3 years. 3 years? Someone shouted. You have been planning this? We have been planning for every possibility, Juan replied calmly. That is my job. If the Assembly chooses withdrawal, we can execute it within 72 hours. Every human in Council space can be brought home. Every ship, every station, every asset. Director Sumin Lee stepped forward from where she had been standing against the wall. We have already sent encrypted alerts to all humans outside Earth space. They are prepared to evacuate on your order, Chancellor. The chamber fell silent. Everyone realized that the decision had already been made at the highest levels. This vote was not about whether to leave. It was about whether the Assembly would support their leaders or undermine them. Representative Yuki stood again. And what happens to the galaxy when we leave? What happens when the next crisis comes and they need human help? That will be their problem, Ji-won said. We offered partnership. They demanded submission. We owe them nothing. But there are good people in Council space, Representative Chen argued. Scientists we work with. Traders who treat us fairly. Friends. They can come with us if they choose, Ji-won replied. But humanity as a whole will not remain where we are not respected. The vote was called. Green lights for withdrawal, red lights for remaining in the Council. The chamber's display board lit up as each representative registered their choice. The green lights outnumbered the red 3-1. Ji-won closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she looked different somehow. Harder. Determined. Admiral Park, she said formally, you are authorized to begin Operation Homecoming. Recall all humans from Council space immediately. Juan saluted and left the chamber at a run. Within minutes, encrypted messages began flowing across the galaxy. Every human ship, every station, every colony outside Earth territory received the same simple instruction. Come home. Bring nothing but yourselves. In the Drexian shipyards, human engineers stopped their work mid-shift and walked to the docking bays. In the Thaler medical centers, human doctors finished treating their current patients and then packed their personal belongings. In the Council diplomatic stations, human staff deleted their files and boarded their ships. No one argued. No one asked for explanations. The call had come. They went home. Human merchant ships in Council trade lanes turned around. Military vessels on joint patrols with Council. Forces simply broke formation and set course for Earth. Human. Researchers in Council laboratories saved their personal notes and left everything else behind. The exodus was silent and total. Humanity did not announce what it was doing. It did not send farewell messages. It did not explain itself to anyone. On the council station, the other ambassadors began to notice that their human counterparts were missing. The human embassy was empty. The doors were locked. The lights were off. Attempts to contact Ambassador Minji Kim failed. Her personal communicator was deactivated. Her ship was already halfway to Earth. Hive Queen Thessera sent an urgent message to the human embassy on Veltara. No response came. She sent messages to human colonies in council space. The colonies were abandoned. Buildings empty. Ships gone. Luminarch Vosk tried to contact the human defense fleet that patrolled the shared border space. The fleet had vanished. Every ship, every satellite, every monitoring station, all gone. Within 48 hours of the ultimatum, humanity had disappeared from council space. On Earth, Jiwon stood in her office watching the reports come in. Ships arriving. People coming home. The greatest mass evacuation in human history, executed with perfect precision. Minji entered the office. The former ambassador looked exhausted but satisfied. "It is done," Minji said. "Every human is accounted for. We left nothing behind but empty buildings. How do you think they will react?" Jiwon asked. Minji smiled without humor. "First they will be confused, then angry. Then they will realize what they have lost. But by then it will be too late. Do you regret it?" Jiwon asked. "All those years of diplomatic work gone?" "No," Minji replied. "I regret that it was necessary. But I do not regret the decision. They wanted to make us kneel. We chose to walk away instead. That is not weakness. That is strength," Jiwon nodded. She looked out the window at the city below. Lights were coming on as evening fell. Somewhere out there, families were reuniting. Children were meeting parents they had not seen in years. Humanity was coming home. "Lock the borders," Jiwon ordered. "No council ships allowed in human space. No communication. No negotiation. We are done with them. And if they try to force their way in?" Minji asked. "Then we remind them why they were afraid of us in the first place," Jiwon replied. The border went dark that night. The automated defense platforms that marked human territory activated their weapons and sent a simple message to any approaching ship: access denied. The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light orbiting the neutral world of Veltara. Inside, representatives from 15 different species gathered around a circular table that glowed with soft blue light. The air hummed with translation devices, converting thousands of different sounds into something each species could understand. Minji Kim sat alone at the human section of the table. She wore a simple gray suit, her black hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her face showed nothing as she listened to the accusations being thrown at her species. She had learned long ago that showing emotion in this room was a weakness. Hive Queen Thessera rose from her platform. The insectoid leader stood nearly 3 meters tall, her chitinous body reflecting the chamber lights. Her compound eyes fixed on Minji as she spoke in clicking sounds that the translator turned into words. "Humanity has become a problem," Thessera announced. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Your species advances too quickly. You refuse to share your technologies. You build weapons we cannot match. This threatens galactic peace." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the council. The crystalline form of Luminarch Vosk pulsed with bright light, adding his support. Vosk was ancient, perhaps the oldest being in the galaxy. His species had helped found the council thousands of years ago. "The human military grows stronger each year," Vosk said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "Your artificial intelligence research progresses beyond our understanding. Your defensive systems are closed to council inspection. This cannot continue." Minji remained silent. She had expected this for months. The reports from Earth's intelligence division had predicted this exact scenario. Director Sumin Lee had warned that the council was growing fearful of human progress. A reptilian delegate from the Drexian sovereignty slammed his clawed hand on the table. "They ignore our requests for technology sharing. They refuse to integrate their defense networks with ours. They act as if they are above the council." "We follow all council laws," Minji said quietly. It was the first time she had spoken in 3 hours. "The letter of the law, perhaps," Thessera replied, "but not the spirit. The council is built on cooperation. Humanity takes but does not give." Minji could have argued. She could have pointed out that human engineers had repaired the Thaler life support systems last year. She could have mentioned that human medical researchers had cured the Velkan plague that had killed millions. She could have reminded them that human traders had opened profitable routes that enriched every council species. But she said nothing. Arguments would not matter here. This was not a trial. It was a sentencing. Luminarch Vosk moved to the center of the chamber. Light bent around his crystalline body in strange patterns. The council has made a decision, he announced. Humanity must comply with the following terms. The terms appeared on holographic displays around the room. Minji read them carefully. Her expression did not change, but inside her chest, something cold settled. Humanity would surrender control of all military vessels to Council Command. Human artificial intelligence research would be halted, and all data turned over to Council scientists. All human defensive technologies would be shared immediately. Council inspectors would be stationed on Earth and all human colonies. Human military personnel would serve under Council officers. It was not a partnership. It was a surrender. It was subjugation dressed in diplomatic language. These terms are non-negotiable, Thesera added. You have 30 days to begin compliance. Failure will result in sanctions. Continued failure will be considered an act of hostility against the Council. The threat was clear. Submit or face the combined might of 15 species. Humanity was strong, but they could not fight the entire galaxy. Minji stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. She straightened her suit jacket and looked around the table, meeting the gaze of each representative. I need 48 hours to deliver these terms to my government, she said. Her voice was calm and professional. I will return with Earth's official response. Thesera's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. 48 hours? You expect us to believe your government needs only 2 days to consider such important terms? I know my government, Minji replied. 48 hours will be sufficient. The council members looked at each other. They had expected weeks of negotiation. They had prepared arguments for every possible human objection. 2 days seemed too easy. Luminarch Vosk pulsed with light. Very well. 48 hours. But understand, Ambassador Kim, there will be no negotiation. These terms are final. I understand, Minji said. She bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect that she knew most of the council would not recognize. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. As she left the chamber, she passed through corridors filled with representatives from other species. Some looked at her with pity, others with satisfaction, a few with concern. She acknowledged none of them. Her ship waited in the docking bay. It was a small diplomatic vessel, sleek and fast. As she boarded, her communications officer handed her a secure tablet. Director Lee sent an encrypted message, Ambassador, the officer said. Eyes only. Minji took the tablet and went to her private cabin. She locked the door and activated the message. Suman Lee's face appeared on the screen. The intelligence director looked tired. I assume it went as we predicted, Suman said. Complete submission or else. Yes, Minji replied, even though it was a recording. She felt better speaking to the image of her friend. Chancellor Choi has already made the decision, Suman continued. The assembly will vote in 12 hours, but we both know how it will go. Come home, Minji, come home and don't look back. The message ended. Minji sat in the darkness of her cabin as the ship began its journey back to Earth. Through the window, she could see the council station growing smaller. Lights flickered across its surface like stars. She thought about all the years she had spent in that chamber. All the debates and compromises. All the careful diplomacy. She had believed in the council once. She had believed that different species could work together as equals. But equality required respect. And respect was something the council had never truly given humanity. Minji pulled out her personal communicator and sent a single encrypted message to Admiral Juan Park. It contained only 2 words. Begin. Preparations behind her. The council station disappeared into the darkness. She would never see it again. The war entered its 2nd year. The Void Hunters had consumed over 200 worlds. 3 entire species had been wiped from existence. The Council's military forces were shattered. Refugee fleets crowded what few safe systems remained. In the chaos, the Council itself began to fracture. The Drexian sovereignty blamed the Thalor Collective for the crisis. The Thalor blamed the Hive Queen for driving humanity away. Old rivalries resurfaced. New conflicts erupted. A civil war broke out in the Kellen system. 2 council species fought over refugee resources. 50,000 died before peacekeepers could intervene. But there were no peacekeepers anymore. Every ship was needed against the Void Hunters. Hive Queen Thesara called an emergency council session. Only 8 species representatives attended. The others were dead, missing, or too busy evacuating their remaining populations. "We are dying," Thesara said. Her voice had lost its arrogance. She sounded tired, defeated. "Not just from the Void Hunters. We are tearing ourselves apart." Luminarch Vosk's light had dimmed to a faint glow. The ancient being had lived through civilizations rising and falling. He had never seen anything like this. "This is what happens when cooperation becomes coercion," Vosk said. "We built the council on shared strength, but we forgot that strength must be freely given. We tried to take humanity's strength by force. When they left, our foundation crumbled." "Philosophical wisdom does not save lives," the Drexian representative snapped. "We need solutions." "There are no solutions," Vosk replied. "Not for us. We made our choice." On Earth, Director Sumin Lee monitored the galactic situation from her secure facility. Quantum sensors tracked every Void Hunter movement. Communication intercepts revealed the Council's desperate state. The data was clear. Complete collapse within 18 months. She brought her report to Chancellor Jiwan Choi. "The Council is finished. Even if the Void Hunters stopped now, they would not recover." "Will the Void Hunters stop?" Jiwan asked. "No. They will consume everything in Council space. Then they will turn toward independent territories. Eventually, they will reach our borders. How long? 5 years. Perhaps 6. We have time to prepare defenses." Jiwan nodded slowly. "And the humanitarian situation?" Sumin hesitated. "Billions of refugees, starvation, disease. The Council cannot care for them anymore. Many will die." "What is Minji doing?" "She has organized a network. Former diplomats, traders, scientists. They are using private ships to deliver supplies to refugee camps, medical equipment, food synthesizers, basic necessities. All anonymously. The Council does not know it is us. The supplies are labeled as coming from independent merchant groups. The Council suspects but has no proof, and they are too desperate to question it." Jiwan stood and walked to her window. The familiar view of the city calmed her. "How much is this costing?" "Minji has funding from private citizens. People who remember friends in Council space. She is not using government resources. Good. I will not stop her, but I will not officially support it either. Humanity's position is clear. We will not intervene in the war." "Some are calling you cruel," Sumin said quietly. "I know, but cruelty would be giving them false hope. If we helped now, they would learn nothing. They would rebuild their council and make the same mistakes. We would be back here in another generation. And if innocents die while we wait, innocents are dying now. Our intervention would save some and condemn others. The galaxy must find its own solution." Far from Earth, Minji Kim worked in secret. She had left government service but kept her connections. A network of humans who had friends among other species. People who believed in helping regardless of politics. They operated from a hidden facility on the edge of human space. Old ships. Private funding. No official support. They moved through war zones, delivering aid to anyone who needed it. One night, Minji received a message from an old friend. A Thaler doctor named Kessel, who she had worked with years ago. "Thank you for the medical supplies," Kessel's message said. "We know they come from humans. Please tell your people that some of us never supported the ultimatum. Some of us valued your friendship." Minji recorded a reply. "We remember our friends. We will not abandon them." The humanitarian network grew. More humans joined. More supplies flowed to refugee camps. It was not enough to stop the crisis, but it kept people alive. Meanwhile, the military situation deteriorated further. The Void Hunters adapted to every defense the Council attempted. They learned. They evolved. They became more efficient at killing. Fleet Admiral Kresik made one desperate last attempt. He assembled every remaining Drexian warship, 200 vessels, the last strength of his people. He led them in a suicide attack on a Void Hunter concentration. The battle was observed by human sensors. Admiral Juan Park watched from his command center as the Drexian fleet charged into certain death. They fought with courage. They fought with desperation. They fought knowing they would lose. All 200 ships were destroyed. But their sacrifice bought time for 3 refugee convoys to escape. 12,000 lives saved. Juan felt something twist in his chest. These were the same people who had tried to invade human space. The same people who had demanded humanity submit. and now they were dying to save civilians. He sent an encrypted report to Chancellor Jiwan. The Council forces fight with honor despite impossible odds. Perhaps we misjudged their courage. Jiwan read the report in silence. She did not change her orders, but she noted the observation. The war continued. More species fell. More worlds were consumed. The Council territory shrank to a handful of core systems defended by the last remnants of their combined fleets. And then something unexpected happened. Species that had been ignored by the Council began to act. Fringe groups, independent colonies, minor species who had never been invited to join the Grand Council. They formed their own alliance, small, desperate, but determined. They studied the few successful engagements against void hunters. They analyzed every scrap of data they could find. Some of that data came from mysterious packages delivered to their territories, encrypted files, tactical analysis, weapon specifications. No one knew where the information originated, but the fingerprints of human design were obvious. Minji's network had expanded beyond humanitarian aid. They were leaking military intelligence. Nothing that would compromise Earth's security, but enough to give the fringe species a fighting chance. Chancellor Jiwan discovered this eventually. Suman brought her the evidence. Minji is sharing more than food and medicine. She is giving them tactical data. Is it our most advanced research? Jiwan asked. No, older designs, things they can actually build and use. Then I see nothing. Officially, this is not happening. Unofficially, it is inspired. The Fringe Alliance began to fight back. Their attacks were small but effective. They used human tactics adapted to their own capabilities. They could not stop the Void Hunters, but they could slow them. 3 years after humanity's departure, the Void Hunters finally met organized resistance. Not from the Council. From species who had learned to work together without demanding submission from each other. The Alliance was not winning. But they were surviving, and survival was enough. On Earth, Jiwan received reports of the Fringe Alliance's progress. She read them carefully. Then she called a meeting with Huan and Suman. The galaxy is changing, Jiwan said. The old council is dead. Something new is forming. Should we make contact? Huan asked. Not yet. Let them find their own path. If they succeed, if they build something better than the council, then perhaps humanity can join them as equals. And if they fail? Suman asked. Jiwan looked out her window at the city lights. Then humanity will endure alone. We have proven we can. The war continued. The galaxy burned, and humanity watched from behind its borders, waiting to see what would rise from the ashes. The first colony to fall was on the edge of council space, a small mining operation on a moon called Trevek 7. 17,000 people lived there. One day they were sending regular reports. The next day, silence. When council ships arrived to investigate, they found nothing, no bodies. No structures, no moon. The entire celestial body had been consumed, leaving only dust and debris. The second attack came a week later. A Drexian cargo convoy disappeared between systems, 23 ships gone. When search vessels arrived, they found the wreckage. The ships had been torn apart from the inside. Claw marks covered every surface. The third attack was on a populated world, the Velkin colony of Heston. 2 million people. The distress call lasted 17 minutes before it cut off. Council military forces arrived within hours. What they found made even veteran soldiers freeze in horror. The planet's surface was stripped bare. Buildings were gone. Forests were gone. Even the topsoil was gone. And moving across the ravaged landscape were creatures that seemed to be made of living darkness. They were called the Void Hunters in the old records. Ancient texts mentioned them as a nightmare from the galaxy's early history. Most species thought they were myth. Stories told to scare children. They were not myth. The Council fleet engaged immediately, hundreds of ships against thousands of creatures. The Void Hunters moved with impossible speed, tearing through shield systems and hull plating. They adapted to every weapon used against them. Hive Queen Thesara's elite warships fired their most powerful weapons. The creatures absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Luminarch Vosk's light-based attacks passed through the Void Hunters without effect. Drexian kinetic weapons shattered harmlessly against their shifting forms. The fleet was destroyed in 3 hours. 70% casualties. The survivors retreated in chaos. The Council convened in panic. These creatures were unlike anything they had faced in modern times. Conventional warfare was useless against them. We need to research their weaknesses, suggested the Thaler representative. Study them. Find a way to fight them. There is no time, Thesara replied. They are spreading. 5 more colonies have gone silent in the past week. Luminarch Vosk had been searching through ancient databases. His crystalline form pulsed rapidly as he processed information. There are records, he said. Old records. From before the council was formed. Our ancestors encountered the Void Hunters millennia ago. They nearly destroyed the galaxy before going dormant. How were they stopped? Demanded the Drexian commander. The records are incomplete, Vosk admitted. The knowledge was lost. But there is something else. A more recent encounter. 63 years ago, a human vessel encountered Void Hunters in unexplored space. The chamber went silent. Every representative understood the implication. What happened? Thesara asked quietly. Vosk displayed the file. It was heavily encrypted, but he had managed to access the basic information. A human research ship, Commander Daehyun Ko. His vessel was attacked by Void Hunters. He survived through a combination of experimental weapons and tactical improvisation. The ship returned to human space damaged but intact. Where is this commander now? The Velkan representative asked. Retired. Living on Earth, and we cannot contact him, Vosk replied. The bitterness in his voice was evident even through the translator. What happened after that encounter? Thesara pressed. Vosk pulled up more data. Human military research intensified in several specific areas. Quantum disruption weapons, temporal shielding, biological warfare countermeasures. The pattern suggests they have been studying the Void Hunters for decades. The Council understood immediately. Humanity had encountered this threat years ago. They had been quietly preparing defenses. They had never shared this information with the Council. Why did they not tell us? The Thalor representative asked. Because we never asked, Vosk replied. And if we had known they were researching such advanced weapons, we would have demanded they stop. We would have claimed it threatened galactic security. The Council sat in the silence of realization. They had demanded humanity limit their research and share their technology. If humans had complied, those anti-Void Hunter weapons would never have been developed. The very policies the Council had pushed would have left the galaxy defenseless against this threat. We must contact Earth, Thesara said. There was no arrogance in her voice now, only desperation. We need their help. We need their weapons. We need their knowledge. Another diplomatic envoy was sent to human space. This time Luminarch Vosk went himself. He stood at the border, his ancient form glowing with intensity as he broadcast his message. We face extinction, Vosk said. All of us. The Void Hunters are destroying everything. We were wrong to demand your submission. We were wrong to threaten you. We ask humbly for your help, not as subjects, not as subordinates, as allies against a common threat. He waited at the border for 3 days. The automated defense platforms watched him in silence. No response came. On the 3rd day, a message finally appeared. Text only. Cold and impersonal, you demanded we submit. We chose freedom. Your war is not ours. Vosk returned to the Council with the message. Thesara read it and slumped on her platform. They will let us die. Can we force them? The Drexian commander asked. A military strike. Take their research by force. Vosk's light flickered with alarm. That would be suicide. We suspected humanity was more advanced than they showed. Now we know they have been developing weapons specifically designed to fight nearly unstoppable creatures. What do you think those weapons would do to our ships? Fleet Admiral Kresik of the Drexian military refused to accept this. He gathered supporters from the more aggressive council members. They planned a military strike into human territory. A fast raid to steal research data from human facilities. They cannot fight all of us, Kresik argued. And if we die trying, we die anyway when the Void Hunters reach our core worlds. The raid was launched without official council approval. 50 warships, the best vessels the Drexian sovereignty could field. They crossed into human space with weapons ready. They encountered a single human fleet. Admiral Juan Park commanded from a sleek ship that seemed to bend light around itself. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Not a single human vessel was damaged. The Drexian ships were disabled with surgical precision. Their weapons were melted. Their engines were frozen. Their shields were collapsed. But life support remained intact. Communications remained functional. A message came from Juan's flagship. His voice was calm and professional. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. This is your only warning. Leave our space. Do not return. The disabled Drexian fleet was towed to the border by automated platforms and released. Kresek returned to the council in shame. His fleet had been defeated so completely, so effortlessly that it was clear humanity had been holding back for years. They have weapons we cannot match, Kresek admitted. Technology decades ahead of ours. And they were willing to let us see it to make a point. The council had lost its last option. They could not force humanity to help. They could not steal human technology. They could not even threaten Earth successfully. Meanwhile, the Void Hunters continued their expansion. 10 colonies fell, then 20, then 50. Billions died. Entire species faced extinction. Inside human space, Director Su-Min Lee presented her analysis to Chancellor Ji-Wan Choi. The council has perhaps 2 years before complete collapse, Su-Min reported. The Void Hunters are spreading exponentially. Council forces are helpless against them. Can we defeat the Void Hunters? Ji-Wan asked. Yes, Su-Min replied. Commander Daehyun Ko's research was thorough. We have weapons that can kill them. We have shields that can repel them. We could stop their advance, but we will not, Ji-Wan said. It was not a question. That is your decision to make, Chancellor. Ji-Wan stood at her office window, looking out at the city. People walked streets in safety. Children played in parks. Humanity thrived while the galaxy burned. They treated us as a threat when we offered friendship, Ji-Wan said quietly. They demanded we kneel when we stood as equals. They have made their choice. Now they face the consequences. Some in the government disagree, Su-Min warned. Former Ambassador Minji Kim is organizing a faction. They want to send humanitarian aid secretly. I know, Ji-Wan replied. I will not stop her. If she wants to help the innocent, that is her conscience. But humanity as a whole will not intervene. The decision was made. Earth's borders remained closed. The silence continued.